born King of the Jews. For we observed his star at the rising and have come to pay him homage. When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophets. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. And then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search and pray him diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the child had stopped, that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. And then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
We will join in singing the first Noel.
The Holy Gospel continues with the remainder of Matthew chapter 2. Now after the wise men had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. The Gospel of our Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
When I was a child, my grandfather Inglis and I, that's my dad's dad, would sit outside and look up at the stars together. Grandpa was the one who showed me the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and Orion. We'd gaze at the moon and talk about its shape. And if a human-made object flew by, he'd tell me all about the satellites that his company built and put up into space. And every so often, we'd see a shooting star. I still love to go outside and look up at the stars. Now, they're more dim than they used to be because of light pollution from the big cities. But I can still find the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and Orion, plus some others that I've learned along the way. I gaze at the moon and I think about its shape. I think about all those human-made objects that float around above our heads. And every so often, I see a shooting star. There is constancy to the stars. They are these pinpricks of light in the deep darkness. Is it any wonder, then, that it's a star that leads the wise men to find Jesus, who is the light of the world? Now, these wise men knew their stars better than me and better than my grandpa. We call them wise men, but really they were astrologers. They were professional stargazers. And so to them, any change in the night sky means something. Often, the appearance of a special star in the sky means that something big is happening. Something big somewhere in the world, like the death of a king or the birth of another king. When the wise men see the star that leads them to Jesus, they pay attention. Then they get up and they travel. We don't know how far, but they travel to Jerusalem and then on to Bethlehem. They travel so they can worship at the feet of an infant king. They visit Jesus with their gifts, and they offer their devotion. Now, it is interesting to me that the gospel writer of the Gospel of Matthew includes this story about the wise men. He's the only one to tell this story. But he includes this story in sharing his story of Jesus' birth. As astrologers, these wise men would have been viewed with suspicion during the time of Jesus. These wise men, then, live outside the accepted norms. And so their worship of Jesus is unexpected. So included in this lovely story that we have of the wise men and Jesus is the idea that God in Jesus has come for all people, not just those that we accept or expect. Now, also woven around this story of the wise men visiting Jesus is the story of a very ugly political reality at that time. Herod the king is paranoid and fearful. He's so fearful that he's able to draw others along that pathway of fear with him. When the wise men stop in Jerusalem to ask directions so that they can go and visit this newborn king, Herod says to them that he wants to go with them to go worship Jesus, But really what he wants to do is to eliminate the infant threat to his power. After the wise men visit Jesus, they receive a warning in a dream not to go back to Herod. So they bravely defy the king, they change course, and they go home on a different route. Then Joseph also has a dream, so he and Mary pack up Jesus and they take refuge in Egypt. The young King Jesus is safe. And so at first we think that the evil king has been thwarted. But Herod rages when he finds out that he's been tricked by those wise men, and he brings death to the children of Bethlehem, death to the children, and weeping and loud lamentation to their families, which is a reminder to us of what can happen when kings are too thirsty for attention and power. For the power that is found in this story is not seated with King Herod on his throne of darkness. That's not where the power is. The power is in the power of God residing in that baby Jesus, the light of the world, Jesus. It is Jesus who will grow up to be a wise teacher and a great healer of people. It is Jesus who will grow up to be crucified and die. It is Jesus who will defeat death by rising again in the power of God. No matter the day or the time or the season, we trust in a God. We trust in a God who doesn't let the darkness of death have the last word. And so, as I said earlier, this weekend we are celebrating the Epiphany, the revealing of Jesus to the world through those wise men. And we take a little bit more time today to revel in the lights of Christmas. Cindy told me earlier that she thought about coming up and taking down the tree yesterday. And I told her, I'm glad you didn't, because it's in my sermon that we have a tree here. But later on, for another year, the lights are coming down, and they're getting packed away. At our house, the tree had gotten extra crispy, if you know what I mean. And so yesterday I pulled off the ornaments and Steve has put the tree outside. And then I ran the vacuum over and over again to get up all those pine needles. And soon our big plastic storage bins will be filled with lights and wreaths and decor. Now, after all the lights have been pulled down and the busy holiday season is over, it can be really hard to get back to life with enthusiasm. After the sparkle of Christmas goes away, it can be difficult to rise and shine. Have you ever encountered or have you ever been a well-meaning morning person who starts off the day with a rousing, rise and shine? Chris is back there nodding. Have you encountered or have you been that person, Chris? She says she is. Rise and shine. And that's what the prophet says to the people of Israel who've returned to their homeland after being exiled. Rise, shine, for your light has come, cries out Isaiah. He's trying to encourage people. He's offering them a word of hope. In their case, he's reminding them that the light of the power of God has led them home again. He's showing them the light that is cracking through the deep darkness that covers the earth. And so to you in this new year, I offer similar words of hope. Rise and shine. Get up and reflect the light of God that has been given to us. The true glory of God has risen up overhead like the sun. Deep shadows spread over the earth. And sometimes it feels like total darkness covers the people. But the Lord shines over us, and his glory shines like the sun. As individuals and as a congregation, we have the opportunity to reflect the light of the world, Jesus, again and again. In this new year, this is the time to rise and shine. Whether it is a pinprick of darkness, of light in the darkness, or as bright as the sun, this is the time to rise and shine. Amen.